this computer. So Ed, I will start again. So would you just tell us a little bit about your journey with self-taping?
So yeah, it's been a few years since I was first asked to self-tape, and I remember the first time I received a request, I was a little bit surprised, and my first thoughts were, right, so not only do I have to deal with all the other responsibilities that an actor does, but I'm now a filmmaker now. I have to film the audition, I have to edit the audition, I have to direct myself. All these sort of things that you don't have to worry about when going to a casting. You're now wearing all those hats as well, and that's I think it's quite a daunting thing. And yeah, I think the other thing is, like, how do you do it on your own as well? When I first started getting requests, it was mainly for things that were monologues, so that was like, that's okay. But it was getting more complicated when, you know, there are more characters speaking. So immediately I was quite, I can't believe this is the way the industry is going. But now, actually, I actually think it's, especially with the pandemic as well, it is a good thing for many reasons. It's certainly not the same as being in the same room with everyone and sort of having those couple of minutes of rapport that you can build in a casting, and getting to show a bit more of your personality. So it's a lot of it is relying upon your performance, but I think the top reason I think it's good is getting used to watching yourself perform. Now, I know we're all our own worst critics. We all don't like looking at ourselves. I mean, I hate looking at myself on a Zoom. It's only been the last few years I've got used to my own voice. I've had my own voice for a long time, and it took me a while to accept that this is how I sound. And unless I want to use another accent for the rest of my life, you know, which I'm not going to do unless I'm going to get paid for it. You know, it's the only voice I've got, and it's the only face I've got, and that's okay. We are humans telling human stories, and we look like humans. So, you know, we're almost there. So it's really good to we've all got our own idea about what good acting is, but more importantly, no one's got a better idea as to what we as an actor can give. So I think it's really important to watch yourself back, which is why I think self-tapes is really helpful, because then you cannot, you don't have to deliver your piece until it's got to a point where you're really happy with it. Another thing, obviously, is it eliminates the cost of travel. I live in Romford, so going to an audition in London, depending on what side of London it is, could take me between an hour to an hour and a half. Or I get there early, so I'm leaving 2 hours before. I'm dealing with other people on trains, potential delays, which are going to stress me out, not get me in the right headspace. I'm going to arrive at the audition place in a waiting room with 10 to 12 other people that look exactly like me. So I'm going to be sat there wondering, well, how do I stand out in a bunch of people that basically look the same, or incredibly similar? What is it I'm going to be able to do in this audition? And I just think doing things in the comfort of your own home relaxes you a little bit more. You're in your own space, and it gives you, rather than that 2-hour journey, it gives you that time to really concentrate on the character you're going to play and the performance you're going to deliver. So I think that's another plus for self-tapes. And also, if you're a sole child carer, I think that's great. I've got a friend who's got twins, and I remember she would be putting things out on Facebook or ringing people being like, I've got an audition, but can you come and just wheel them around the block for 15 minutes whilst I pop in and do this audition, in exchange for a coffee or whatnot. And I think, it's really helpful especially those for people that live far out as well, people who are in Manchester, Birmingham, Cardiff, and all the places outside of London, to travel down for not even 10 minutes in a room, it's a lot of money. It's a long journey as well. You're not going to feel very. I had an audition in Manchester once, a 3-hour journey there to be there for 5 minutes, and you don't feel very energized after a 3-hour train journey. For what may or may not be something that's going to get you apart. So yeah, I think it's a really good thing. I think it's a really good time now that we've got with only castings just opening up, that we can hone this skill and practice. So you can do that on your own. You can look for self-tape challenges. There's one that's starting on the 17th of April, purocasting.com. That's PURO casting.com. It seems to be very good, and they do different challenges, and they've got one on the 17th. Or just look at people's self-tapes.
Yeah, that Molly's got a question.
Sorry, there's also another one on Twitter called Do or Die Studios. I think it costs like £7 for an entry, but sorry if you're going to say that, Ed. Sorry.
No, I forgot about it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's really good because like top casting directors judge it. So it's just good to get your face out there.
I think it's called Do or Die Cast Me, isn't it?
Yeah, I think. Comp. But I think let me double check their handle so you can follow them. Bear with me. I think it's just Do or Die.
And so that's like a competition that you enter yourself for.
Yeah, so you enter it. I think it is about £7 for a ticket, £7 or £8, and then you get scripts sent to you, and then you choose which one. I think you have like 3 days to film it, and then you send it back off, and then the casting director judges it, chooses a winner. I think the winner gets a prize, but I mean, it's winning just being watched by like a top end casting director, really, and they just know your face then. So it is. Oh God, I just lost it. Do or Die Studios. Looks like this. If you can see, it's very worth it. Okay, that's all.
Thanks, Molly. That's brilliant. So Do or Die. I mean, if you just you can Google the self-tape challenges, and you get a few come up. But yeah, and also you can watch people's on YouTube, and it's good. You study them, critique them, see what kind of choices you've made and not, and then have a look at how they've framed themselves, how they've lit themselves. You know, can they be seen? Can they be heard clearly? You know, and like I said, it's daunting because you now need to sort of become this. Also, you feel like you need to be a technical whiz, but just hopping on to what Doug was saying earlier about you can buy this and you can buy that. Yes, you can. I mean, you don't have to. I think the important thing is to know that casting directors are aware that not everybody has the access to buy all this kind of kit, especially a DSLR camera. Yeah, you can use your phone. Some iPhones can record up to 4K. Don't record up to 4K though. That's one of the don'ts. Don't have a really high res because it takes them a very long time to download and open and play the file depending on what they're playing it on, because they're going to have a computer full of files to watch. So it's good to have it on the lower one. I will dig out the right thing in a bit and send that to you guys. But use your phone. Has everybody done a self-tape? Let's hear. Yeah. Have you got a question, Glenn?
No, I was just say I've done a few in the past.
Oh, brilliant.
I was just going to follow up with the idea that you don't need to spend a whole lot of money. I mean, I just got a blank wall. I do it on my phone. I've got a ring light, cost me about 20 quid on Amazon. So, and they're happy with that. Most of them normally say they like to prefer grey or blue backgrounds, but as long as it's not matching your colour or whatever. So yeah, just like to say, you don't have to spend millions.
That's right. That's absolutely right. So grey and blue is the preferred. I try and stay away from the words industry standard, but they prefer blue and grey. The reason that is apparently it's the colours that accurately bring out your skin tone on camera. So it gives them a more accurate look at what you look like. But if you don't, as long as it's a blank, even if it's just white and it's plain, that's fine. As long as it's not a crazy vibrant yellow or red. But yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned ring lights, because that is something you can use. But again, what I'm hearing now is casting directors prefer natural light. If you can position opposite a window,
yeah,
you know, during a nice day. I know we don't have many of those in this country, but you know, obviously depending on when you film, you can just use the lights you've got. As long as your lights aren't sort of behind you or directly above you, as long as they can see you clearly, that's the most important thing.
And because I was surprised that some of the casting directors say it happens quite often about standing in front of a window and having light behind you, so that then obviously you're in silhouette. You can't actually be clearly seen. And they also said that they believe that then people have filmed it and then not looked back at the image themselves. So I think that's, you know, it's quite an important thing, isn't it, actually, to look back and go, can I be seen?
Yeah.
Go on, Harry.
Go on, Harry.
No, I just wanted to bring up, as he was mentioning about the phone, because for me, obviously, I'm as an actor doing self-tapes, but as a director, I'm also one that has to look at them. And I received one self-tape from an actor, which, like with it, he clearly had his phone like this, so it was sort of looking upwards like that, and he hadn't memorized the text, so it was clear he was reading it and he was mumbling, didn't understand it, and I sort of said to him, like, you have the time to sort of prepare it, like have this date, but he sent it in like literally an hour after I sent that, and obviously he didn't get the part, but I gave him like just feedback towards how he can obviously improve on it in the future, not in a aggressive negative way, but in a way sort of as constructive to help. And that sort of inspired me and my creative partner to create sort of like a satirical top tips video to how to make the perfect self-tape in the style of like an old British pay like thing, where it goes, oh yes, now here is the perfect example of lighting you need. Because we know obviously from us, we can't afford, like, as younger people say, they can't afford like nearly £300 on cameras. Stuff like natural lighting and like just making sure background's good is sort of what you need. And cheers for, as you said, mentioned about the blue background, because I wasn't too sure like if blue background was okay, like if is light blue or sort of normal blue sort of preferable.
I think it's anything. Yeah, I think it's any shade of blue. Grey is the obvious one, isn't it? But I think blue is fine. I think it's to do with white, because there's a lot of reflection on white, and you can get a lot of shadow on white. And as Ed said, white doesn't naturally bring out. It's a bit like passport photos, isn't it? You have all those backgrounds that we used to have. Yeah, some people here. I think Molly's never been to a passport booth. There are certain colours that bring out your natural skin tone. So I think it is best if you can have a blue or a grey background. But I think that it's also then, if you've got a white background, it's about the lighting on yourself as well, isn't it, Ed? So if you've got a ring light, will you go through all the kind of technical aspects to
so in regards to ring lights, if you're going to get a ring light, you can get a selfie ring light in which your phone can be sort of attached in the middle of, and then the ring light is on the outside around it, obviously. And you can get, the cheapest one I've seen, I was having a look today to give you guys some prices, just to give you an idea, it was like £9.99, and that's just for one light to go around your phone. You can get different ring lights, and then it gets a bit more expensive, a bit silly. So they can start from about £29.99 and they go up to like 60 quid. If you're going to invest in any ring light, make sure you get one which has got like a little remote control on it, which adjusts the brightness of the light as well. And so the one I've got also manages to do different shades. Not different colors, but sort of almost, it's quite sort of different shades of a white light. It's very random. I think I've got that for like voucher. But yeah, so it doesn't have to be expensive. Those things are important. And going back to the phone as well, if you're gonna use a phone and not a £300 camera, always use the lens on the back of your phone. I know people think it's easier because, like, with the reverse thing, you can see your image, but the lens isn't as good on the front camera. It can't zoom in and zoom out as much, or do as much as the lens on the back. And obviously, again, if this is not too obvious, it's always landscape and never portrait. And I think it's easier to flip images and things now on apps and editing software. But if you're in doubt, always have the volume buttons. I think the volume buttons are all on the left-hand side of the phone, so always have them at the bottom, so that when you watch playback, you won't be upside down. Yeah, and in regards to sound, sorry, Doug.
Yeah, and because the thing about going in portrait means there's just a whole load of black around you, isn't there?
Yeah,
and because the image of you suddenly goes very small, doesn't it? Whereas
that's right.
And landscape is a TV screen, is a cinema, is a stage as well. You know, that's how we see everything. That's what we want to see you in.
Yeah. So yeah, you would. I mean, like, ideally, if you could afford it, you can get like a tripod. They're also not too expensive. It's good to have one on the stand. If not, do what I did. I used to improvise. I would stack books and DVDs and CDs and stick my phone on top on my dining table just so it was at the right frame. So, you know, there are ways around things. You don't have to spend loads of money. And again, coming to sound, especially like microphones.
Sally's got a question.
Oh, sorry, Sally.
Sorry, can I ask a really stupid question?
This is what this is for. Stupid questions galore.
So you're using the phone like that on on your tripod. So how do I get it to start?
Okay, so you will it'll be on the screen side. You'll have a button on the front on your camera on your phone where it says video. I think it comes up as a red button.
Yeah, it does. So do I put it on a timer?
No, I think you don't have to put it on a timer.
Just means you have to edit it afterwards.
Oh, I see. That's fine. I just thought maybe there was a little, because I've got a remote control for where I can start it, but only if it's facing me.
Right.
So I don't think I'll be able to use it if it's the other way around. But I just wondered.
Yeah, I think you'll want to edit it at the beginning and the end anyway. So just switch it on, come into position and do it. And but you can, that is within, generally phones allow you to edit the video within them themselves, don't they? So it's not, we'll get on.
This is why I don't do many self-tapes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm really terrible with technology, but I've downloaded an app called iMovie, which enables you to edit and then the compressor so that you can compress it all. So if I can do it, it's not going to be that complicated to do because I'm terrible with technology. But I picked that up from the Manuel Puro, I always say his name wrong, self-tape challenge. So that's really good to do because you get all of the information and how to, it has to be something like 7:20, I don't know if you've already covered this, 7:20 PM or something, whatever it is.
Yeah, so looking at like how you record things, I mean, I've got an iPhone, so, oh, sorry, Molly, did you want to ask a question?
I just wanted to say to Sally, do you know how to like crop a video on your camera roll? Because I can quickly tell you if you want me to.
I'd love to lie and say yes, but actually no, I don't.
Is it
okay if I really quickly talk?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I might pin you. Shall I pin you?
This is what this is for.
You can pin me if you want.
Please.
Let me get a random video so I can actually show. Okay, so this is actually a self-tape, handy. So if you have the video like this, you don't have to play it. So it should just be like this. Can you see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the top right-hand corner, it just says edit. If you click on the edit button, then it will come up to like a little bar at the bottom.
Yeah.
And literally all you have to do is just slide that bar. It should highlight yellow around the rim, and you can just drag it, and then the timer will move down. And before you press done, you can press play to just make sure it's edited all right. And you can also drag it across if you want to, rather than watch the whole thing to make sure you've trimmed to the end off. Because I know you were saying about the beginning when you press play and then walk around, and then obviously you have to walk back around to stop it. So you can just crop the two bits at the beginning
fantastic.
and at the end.
Because normally I do
sense?
about 700. It's like I just keep doing it until I think, right, that's it, and stop, and then I'm waving secretly at my neighbour who very kindly sometimes films for me. She's crap, but I love her and she's kind, and that's great. Thank you, Molly. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Just make sure you press done.
Okay, done.
Otherwise it won't save it. And one last thing. When you press done, you can save it as a new clip, or you can just save the original. So if you save it as a new clip, it'll add to the bottom of your camera roll.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
And it will
So if
keep
you've
the
made
original.
a mistake, so you've still got the original. If you've made a mistake, you can go back to that. Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh no, but it's fine, because even if you do, sorry. Even if you do save that video and you realise it's wrong, you can edit and it's got a little revert back to the original.
Oh.
So you'll never lose the original.
Brilliant. But when you send it off,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. So when you send that off, though, they don't get the full bit. They just get the bit that you've sent off.
No, they won't. But I normally just save it as a new one, just in case for some unknown reason it hasn't done it. And then I just know that it's a completely separate file.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome.
Great.
No problem.
That's brilliant. That's really, really useful. One thing, Ed, so you were talking about the phone and the tripod, and that's brilliant. And I didn't realize that the camera on the other side wasn't as good as the one on the back. So that's a really brilliant tip. What's the framing? What framing are you supposed to do?
Yes. So it's
Harry touched upon this earlier on, but
yeah. I mean, it's really important to frame yourself, much like you will have for this Zoom, being in the center of your box. You don't
not like this.
You don't want to be like that. No, you don't want to be up the nostrils. You definitely don't want to be like when I have to FaceTime my dad and all I can see is his forehead. And he's got all the room at the top, and it's just like, "Hi, how you doing?" So yeah, get your frame needs to be the right size for whatever it is you're going to be doing in it. So if it's very just dialogue based and it's more for film and it's smaller, then this is fine. Give yourself a bigger frame and move the camera further back if you need to do an action of some sort. So last year I had to do something in which I get shot during a scene. So I've got some dialogue, but I needed the impact of that. So I wanted to sort of bounce back against the wall. So I needed to allow space in the frame for that. So that if I just did it in this one and I'm sort of dived out a bit, that's it's not helpful. So I have to see everything all the time.
It's kind of eye level, isn't it, with the camera? Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, the camera needs to be about eye level, a bit like a headshot, head and shoulders. But again, if it's for bigger actions or something involving potential prop or something else, then just make your frame bigger, move your camera back or zoom out.
Now here's and then that sitting or standing.
Well, so that again, that all depends on the piece. So kind of, in all auditions, it's your job to make sure that you can convince the person watching of the world that you're creating. So I guess that is an artistic choice unless specified. I tend to do most of my self-tape sitting, but yeah, other than for ones with action, like I said, you may need to stand.
I think for theatre, I would say stand, because, and also I think there's a stylistic thing which is different as well. Is that I need you not to do TV acting.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? And so because the camera becomes intimate, I need you to actually, I need to know you can use your voice, you can be on voice, that I need to know that you can fill a 507-seater theatre. So I would just say if it's a theatre, I think you should be standing, frame it so it's similar, which is a tricky one with a tripod then, isn't it? Because obviously your eye line is much higher. But I also need to know that you're physically not, that you're engaged and alive in this space. So I would just say, be careful about self-taping for theatre. It's a very different thing for commercials or for TV, is I need to know your theatrical, I need to get a sense of your theatrical skills. So that's quite a big difference. And if you're sitting, it's quite difficult. I know obviously we sit in plays quite a lot, but also it's quite difficult to get your diaphragm activated and your vocal support, because the energy is quite low in a chair. Whereas if you're up, then obviously you can really power up, particularly if you're doing monologues, if you're doing Shakespeare as well.
Brilliant, yeah. Oh, go on, Sally.
Sorry, this is just a thing that I learnt from a course that I went on a couple of years ago, that if you're doing TV acting, so if you're doing a intimate thing, because of the diaphragm, the voice coach, who was an American voice coach, suggested that you put your hand like that with your middle fingers sticking out, and you just engage with your diaphragm. So as long as you're not visually, so if you're sitting down and they can't see that bit, that if you press into the diaphragm, then you connect more, so you get that energy that Doug was talking about when you're standing up. And I have used that a couple of times, and I've found it quite useful, just to remind me that otherwise I feel like I'm just like sitting down and slouching a bit. Well, that's just me, probably lazy.
But that's good, because it means you really focus. You're thinking about
although you're intimate, you're pushing your hand and you're connecting.
So have we covered everything technically? So we've done lighting,
Yeah.
we've done the camera, we've done the tripod. Are you going to say about sound?
So sound, yeah, I was just very briefly, again, it's just optional. Again, it's only if you have money to spend, which most of us don't. But there are microphones that you can buy for about £20, which you can fix, like the little tiny little mics you can fix, the lapel mics that you can fix the clothing out of shop if you want to get better sound. But to be honest, the microphone on your phone is so good, providing your phone isn't on the other side of the room, and even then it would still hear you. It's the closer you are to the camera, then depending on what kind of performance you need to do, then the better the sound. But really it's fine. You don't need to invest in, it's just an optional thing.
The one thing is also just to be careful of the room that you're in as well, because if you're in a room that is,
yes, and the kind of acoustics,
the acoustic is very pingy, then like our rehearsal rooms, for example, are really pingy and they're really terrible for filming. It's actually really hard to hear the quality of your voice in a very echoey. It's actually our living rooms and bedrooms, because there's often there's curtains or there's bed sheets or sofas, or which obviously carpet, or carpet, which take up the sound. So just be careful about that. What do you Harry?
I was going to say a trick that I found because I was doing some voice work is to sort of get out any sort of extra background noise, plus to sort of not make your voice the recording lose your voice in the room, so it's sort of in a muffled sort of sense, is to get like very thin sheets, so that way it's not too heavy on you and in a space or a small room, and then you record it, and then when you hear back, as long as you don't make the sheet ruffle at all, you get a very nice clear voiceover sound.
Where do you put the sheet, Harry?
Fairly very thin, like.
But where does it go?
Oh, just like you've got to put it over yourself, over.
Oh, when you're doing audio recording.
Yeah, because I was doing a podcast with a
Yeah.
voice actor from a video game, Assassin's Creed, and he said during lockdown he had to go under sort of his bed sheet to record to get the voice.
Don't do your self-tape with your bed sheet on though.
No, it's only just like that's
For
only
audio.
Yeah,
Definitely, but
Playing the ghost.
but putting sheets in your room on walls and stuff will soften
Hmm.
the acoustic as well in your room. And Ed, what about props and costume?
Yeah, so just moving on to what to wear. It's really funny for for every casting director that would say, you don't have to dress up as the character. An actor would always say, yeah, but Elijah Wood dressed up as a hobbit and he got the part in Lord of the Rings, and the rest is history. But it's like, I think it's important to maybe wear something that sort of nods to the kind of character you're playing, or maybe dress smartly if the status is high, or if they're I don't know, a lawyer or someone that would wear a suit, or someone on a night out, or someone at a wedding. Like, put it all into context, but I don't think you have to go full out head to toe. Like, don't rent a Spartan army uniform if you're being put up for a soldier. Just if you can have something, just to sort of help characterize. I don't think you have to go nuts. And in regards to props, I always say, like, don't really use props unless you're comfortable. It's really important that you're confident with using props, because not everybody is. And I think with all the other elements you now have to think about with your lighting and your sound, don't throw something else that's going to maybe take away from your performance. But I do say, if you feel like you can, then go for it. I had a self-tape once in which the idea was that I was digging a grave. So I was thinking, right, well, for a start, we need a long shot, and I'm in my living room, and I've got like I've got a sofa in the corner, I've got the TV over there. So it's like, well, we'll frame it. So I had a broom, but I framed it so that you couldn't see the bottom bit, so it wasn't it wasn't too obvious it was a broom, and at least they got the motion of me whilst delivering the dialogue to the character there that I was digging a grave. Things like that I think can help. I think don't go out of your way also to change your environment. People have got a bit crazy and try to replicate a scene, whatever that's in the scene is in their self-tape for it, which again I think is a bit much, because in a normal casting you just be in a dark room with a camera and a couple of people. Like, it's not, it's all about what you bring to the performance, through your performance to build that world. So don't go crazy. But like, if you've got like if you're in a scene where you need to be typing, or you're at a computer or something, then fine, have a laptop, but put your camera in the right place. Put the camera behind the laptop, so all they can see is this and you typing the whole time. Just make sure you can be seen all the time, and don't overcomplicate things.
And I think that's useful for just in-person auditions, and I see people do it, and I do like it. It's when people wear something that is a nod to, because I think what it does, it helps the casting director imagine you in that role a little bit more. But it is always slightly disconcerting when somebody completely dresses up as what they think the character is. I also had I had somebody once come. This is in person, but just to kind of how distracting it can be. Somebody came in for a part in an old Coward play and bought in volumes and volumes and volumes of books about Noel Coward and put them on the desk, and then never referred to them. But just to go, I have all these books on Noel Coward. And of course, I can't even really remember what that person did in the rehearsal, in the audition. I can just remember the Noel Coward. Generally, if you are that distracted, which is that thing about seeing people's backgrounds, their rooms and stuff in their room, or if they've got a crazy, they've gone wild on the costume or the set for their self-tape, or a strange prop. I think that's very good about, so a nod is really brilliant because it helps. And you do notice, but it's not distracting because it actually is probably something that is in their wardrobe and that they wear themselves. I think you're right. I think that's absolutely right about a prop that helps you if it's a physical action. Like, I think that's the perfect thing about the broom and stuff, is that if it helps you, because miming it would not be great. It might not be great to do some miming. It might be helpful to actually have the thing that you need. Go on, Molly.
Just quickly on that, I know it's not self-tapes, but say that was an audition in the room, would you rock up with a broom? I know that sounds really silly, but if you wanted to, or would you mime it in the room?
I just would go, that poor person has come all the way to Hornchurch with a broom. What were they thinking? I think sometimes people have props. I always find, I do laugh, I have to admit, when somebody brings their own prop. I think because we know it's not real, you know, we know it's so limited what is available in the room, in the rehearsal room. I think a broom, I think that will be quite extreme. But I think because you might have these things at home, I think that's, like Ed was saying, I think that's absolutely fine. But rocking up, like somebody's shovel, somebody's come on the district line with a shovel. I'm not sure I'd be able to concentrate on the performance as much. Okay. So I would just be thinking about, they've come all the way from Clacton, or they've come all the way from Richmond on a tube with a shovel, and I would be thinking about that rather than actually listening to you. There are a couple of things, obviously, Ed, about people reading in, and I think there's the question about direct to the camera or not. And then go on. Do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I've got my list of don'ts.
Yeah.
Which encompasses that. So obviously, yeah, don't film it in portrait, as we discussed. You know, be aware of your frame, always landscape, and yeah, don't look into the camera. You're not, certainly if you get the role, that's not where you're going to be delivering your lines.
What if it is something? What if it's something that's direct address?
I think that is something that would be specified in the breakdown when you get it, and the casting note. So I think, unless specified, don't do it. I think what would be good, if it's a scene in which you're actually in the script and it says you're breaking the fourth wall, I think it would be. I think then fine. You know, if you think about things like Fleabag and things like that, in which it's direct. There's just those moments, then fine. But I couldn't imagine there'd be a reason, unless you're breaking the fourth wall for that long, that there would be. You'd be doing it for like a monologue or something like that. It would have to be have to be specified, I think.
Yeah, I think if it's a piece of theatre and if it's a piece of theatre and it's a monologue, do it direct to camera.
Fair.
Yeah, I think if you've been given a monologue, I would do it direct. I would do it direct to camera. If it's if it's a theatre piece, definitely.
Yeah. Go, Harry.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, with that, obviously, because you still got to pretend that person's there, is it good to perhaps put something there to help you sort of have something for your eye, like vision to focus on, say, could be just a bit of paper or something there that...
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I had to do last year. Sometimes you don't have someone else in the house, sometimes or you live alone, so I drew eyes on the wall as my eye line. That's what I did, but so that brings me to my next point, which is don't film on your own or having pre-recorded the other lines. So for screen, that's something that, like, they don't want to hear your voice twice in that way. And even if you try and put on a different voice, it doesn't quite come off the same. So if you're in a scenario where, obviously, like now, you can't just have an actor friend come around, or family members are not the greatest, because as much as they can help out, they're not actors, so they're not going to give you the same thing that another actor would, enable for you to act in the right way. So what I would recommend is Skyping or Zooming with someone else, so they can read the lines, and a casting director would be totally fine with that. Go on, Harry.
Yeah, I was going to say I had to do that for an actor friend. She was auditioning for a TV role, and because we're both in different households, I had to feed the lines to her, sort of for her to react to, but she had to set it up with one thing, the zoom in the corner, and then her doing the camera in the other. So it was sort of both of us, we had to sort of work with those technical difficulties in case there was a delay due to Wi-Fi connection in receiving like what the person's saying and just stuff like that. So I'd say for that, it's good to sort of, if you have to do it via Zoom with a friend, doing the other lines, practice the day before so you can both get used to it, because it is very weird at first.
I think that also, I mean, I think the thing about reading, getting someone to read in for you as well. I mean, I think if you don't have an actor, actually someone just reading it neutrally is absolutely fine, because actually we're very used to being in where a casting process is with a casting director, or just, you know, somebody from the organization is in there, and somebody reading it neutrally, which is not great for the actor, obviously, because you're not getting very much to bounce off. But if it's neutral, we can kind of ignore it. But sometimes you get a self-tape where the other actor, the reading in, is overacting or really going for it, and that's really distracting. So I think it's best if the person, even if they're an actor or if they're non-actor, is ask them to read it quite neutrally, that it's dialed down, because I think it's very distracting if it's almost as if they're they're auditioning for the part as well. It's best if they're on the dial of scale of acting, that they're a little bit lower than the person who we're actually watching, because it can be very distracting. Yeah, go on, Glenn.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, the trick I do normally is I'll have fellow actors, we FaceTime and have the phone sort of near my laptop or my iPad near the actual speaker, so they're they're virtually reading, and then I can like record it as it is, so they just get their voice as if they're sitting by the camera. The only thing is it doesn't always pick up the voice too well, but you can hear it.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's more important that you're heard.
Yeah, and we'll know the script. We will know the script as well, the people who are watching it. Go on, Christina.
Yeah, I find this is the one aspect of the whole self-taping thing that I find really, really difficult, because I live alone, and so I record on my phone. So I really haven't got any way or idea of how to get that second person in. I did manage to do something at the weekend with my daughter, because I'm in a bubble with her, but it's not always easy because she's got 3 children. So at the point that I've got a deadline to meet and I've got to get her around, she's got to bring half of her brood with her, which is not always then conducive to actually being in a calm atmosphere to do self-taping I do. So that is the one thing that I haven't really managed to crack.
And the only device you have is a phone?
But for recording on, yeah, I've got a laptop.
And can you get somebody to come in on Zoom and do it with you over the laptop?
Well, I don't know. I've never even attempted to do that before.
Is that what you do, Ed? Well, Glenn is using somebody on FaceTime on a phone, aren't you? And then Ed, are you bringing somebody in on a laptop?
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky. I've not had to do that. I have had friends that have, and yeah, it's like I mean, Zoom sort of kills a lot of bandwidth. I've noticed, and that can cause delays. So maybe Skype might be the best thing.
Yeah, or even FaceTime if you've got a Mac, FaceTime on the Mac. There'll be and I think any kind of video.
I had a script sent to me at the weekend, and I was told, right, just do a scene from this script, and every scene had about 3 people in it. Or 3 or 4 people in it, and I'm thinking, how on earth am I going to self-tape that? And I thought, this is crazy. My agent has said to me, well, just record your own voice and then send and then kind of dub it over, but I've never really tried to do that because I just
it's weird. It's strange. It's so strange you talking to yourself.
It's not. I really
no.
wouldn't.
I would get somebody to come in. On your laptop using Skype. Yeah, because I think the quality of Skype is better, or FaceTime, or and also do remember, I think when we get so obsessed by the self-tape, I mean, it is replacing the room, you coming into the room. And so some of those things, remember the experience of the room. And obviously, Christina, I know you're quite new to the business, but if you came into a casting room and a scene had 4 or 5 characters, that one assistant would be reading all of those other roles in.
Yeah.
So that is what we're expecting. We're not expecting you to get 3 or 4 people in to do all the roles.
That one person can read all of those parts.
Yeah, and just reading. When you come into the room for theatre and obviously TV castings as well, but I think most of them are now self-taped. But that casting assistant or the casting director or even the director would just read all the other parts and quite neutrally. And I think the neutral stuff and not overcomplicating the stuff around you, if that's costume, props, background. What we're saying, Ed, isn't it? Is just take everything away and just make sure that we can hear you, we can see you, and appreciate all of the most important thing is this brilliant performance that you've worked really, really hard on to give. So anything else around is a distraction. So you doing your own voice, you talking to yourself is a distraction.
You can't react to yourself.
That's a good idea, actually. I hadn't thought of Skyping or Zooming in. So, maybe I'll give that a try.
I think a lot of people have done that, but you're right, Ed. Zoom has a bit of a delay on it. So using this little creature just came into. Get Rosie to do it with you.
Get her to read it.
Molly, did you have your hand up?
Just something that might be useful, Christina. I've found that if, say, there's a self-tape and there's 2 different characters, because one person's going to be reading in those 2 characters, maybe having 2 different eye lines just to change between, and it just shows the different relationships.
Yeah, that's a great tip, Molly. That's really good.
Brilliant.
No problem. But if there's loads of characters, I don't think that's necessary. I might be all over the place. But if there's like 2 or 3, I think it's useful.
That's a really good tip. And there's a really big thing of don't pan in and out. That's a no, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to do unless you've got control of the camera remotely. So yeah.
It's just a bit strange, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, keep it to the same, the same sort of frame.
In the same way, in the room, we can't pan in and out if you in the room.
No, I mean, I think if you were not for theatre, for screen stuff, maybe when you're in the room, then you've got a camera person, they might zoom in or whatever. But no, just same frame. Stay in it.
Can you tell us about the slate?
Yes. So the slate is something you probably would have been asked to do. More so for commercial stuff, but they do it for some sort of narrative film and TV things. Where you have to face the camera, you have to say your name and your agent. Say if you've been in any conflicting commercials over the last 3 years, then you have to
that's only if you're doing a commercial, isn't it?
Yeah, to hold your hands up, turn them the other way, and then show each profile. And they tend to request that head to toe. Now this was very tricky for me this week because I'm in the process of moving and there are boxes everywhere in every room of my house. It's very difficult to get a long shot in, and this is where the landscape rule can go out of the window. So for this, you can film it on your phone in portrait to make sure, you know, if you get someone to hold it, if you have someone, to stand far away enough to get that all in. And it's really important to film the slate last. You want to make sure that your focus on the audition is the audition, and not battling all. That's basically like the admin of the audition, the slate. So you really want to just get a great performance, and you also don't want to submit loads and loads of takes. You know, probably 2 takes max. And again, unless specified, it'd be really strange if they were so open to variation that they would let you submit more than 2. But don't submit 2 of the same delivery. You know, be the surprise that they want to see. You really want to give them a different option on the dialogue. That, you know, the writer might be in there and thinking, wow, you know, I thought about this line in one way, but maybe you said it in a different emotion and made me think it. So they're gonna be seeing a lot of the same thing all the time. So it's really good to be to mess with the dynamics of things as well.
Yeah, it needs to be a very different, doesn't it? If it's similar, also it's so dangerous because you suddenly go, that actor has done 2 takes and they're the same. They're almost the same.
2 takes and then sent them in.
Yeah, and then go, they're not versatile, because immediately you go, they're not versatile. I mean, the big failing of, you know, the big the kind of the disadvantage of doing a self-tape for theatre or for film and not being in the room is that there's no chance for you to have any notes. And, you know, for a director to go, because if your interpretation is not the way that the director wants it to be, or thinks they need to see that quality, emotional quality or characteristic in it, there is a chance in the room for the director then you try like this. Or if it's under energized and you're worried about that the actor might not have the power, I can go, okay, well, do it like this. So I think when I first did self tapes for casting, when I saw an actor do 2 takes, I was like, that is so brilliant, because the first one was so under energized, but I would have said no. And actually the second one was, even though I didn't think it was the right interpretation, I just found it really useful to see a range. So I like 2 takes, but obviously they're there to show a versatility and a different interpretation, just in case the interpretation is not quite how the.
Yeah, definitely, not to show that you've just got tunnel vision about what you think the whole piece is about. You know, it's very important to have a bit of variety and to give them a different option. And yeah, you don't have that on the first round. You won't have that opportunity for being redirected, obviously. But if you, like this week, I had a call back for something, and I actually got to be directed, you know, over Zoom, strange as it was. But yeah, so the other don't I've got is labeling your files when you send them off. It's really important, because, like I said, casting directors they're not just casting your character, they might be casting 25 characters for this thing, and they're going to be looking at loads and loads of people, and they just want their job made easier. So don't give them an excuse, just bin your audition immediately. Label your file. They tend to specify how they want it labeled, but it usually is sort of like the character name, or maybe the name of the production, and then hyphen with your name. Make sure your name is always capitalized, and then a hyphen with the take number, with the take 1 or take 2. Yeah, don't just send in the file that's been created, which will just be a random jumble of letters and numbers, which won't mean anything to them.
And just to go back to the slate, Ed, so full length, you would your name, character, agent, full length. You said about showing hands. I have seen that. I've seen this.
Yeah, it's more so for commercial.
Yeah. This is because I specified it. But for theatre, I asked for somebody to talk about why they wanted to do that project, that character, that project at the Queen's Theatre. So people did a little intro. And because for me, auditions, so we're talking about theatre here, this would not go down well in TV or commercial. the thing that I learned the most about somebody, because obviously we have to spend a month, 2 months together, and often I'm trying to put a company together and put a group of people that are going to have a really good time and really support each other and hold each other together through there is always, you know, moments within a run that are tricky and really difficult. You might have a difficult audience, or something happens in somebody's life, or, you know, and that a company can hold they can hold each other. So I'm very interested in why somebody wants to do the job and what are their drivers, and also get a sense of their personality. And one thing I did see is that when you do that introduction is to try and, for the TV, is to give a glimmer of your personality, is actually, because if it's quite deadpan, that doesn't give a really great impression of who you are. It's the only moment where we are going to get to know who you are. But I would say for theatre, because we're used to it and we want that, and people, there will be more self-tapes for theatre, definitely, and particularly this year. And also because I think we're going, this is brilliant. Somebody doesn't have to pay £120 to come down from Manchester because we've only told them 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So we might even do hybrid of going, you send a tape, don't come, but you're in Hornchurch, come. And I did do a hybrid on Misfits, actually. I would take the liberty of having a bit, say why you want the job and why you want to work with that organization, and tell us a little bit about yourself. If it's theatre, I think we will, like a minute, we will be absolutely up for that chat. So I wouldn't shy away from that. Don't do that in the TV or the film though.
No.
But that introduction is really important though, isn't it? Because that's the only moment.
It is strange you say it though, because I have been like within the last year I've been requested by my agent to create an intro video, which is now my spotlight. And I do talk about myself and talk about what I was doing pre-pandemic, and sort of what am I looking forward to getting back to. So I think those things apply to me. I think it's really good to get a sense, but unfortunately, like, you can't get a better sense unless you're in the same room with someone, you know.
You get a good idea, but but that's only in, I think, in a live in Zoom. You know, if we're doing it direct, then you get a sense because you can have obviously a conversation. But
sure,
you do get a really good sense of who somebody is. And then, you know, the big thing for us, just so that you know, and I think this probably will happen for lots of theatres, is that the person, for us, the person has to come to the organization and get, for them to get a sense of the building and know that that is the right job for them as well. Because it's if you don't have an understanding of the area and you don't have an understanding of the audience, then you don't really know what you're engaging with, you know, what the gig actually is, because obviously the gig is about an audience, and if you don't get a sense of the population or the area that you're actually performing for, then that I think that can be quite problematic at times, you know. That can turn out to be a bit problematic. And have you got any other don'ts?
That might have been my last. Don't label your file, don't send that's the multiple takes, same thing. Oh well, yeah, and read the script. Well, it's not don't read the script.
Really prepared.
That's don't just don't just read the lines, basically. I have had you know, when I've cast my projects, and I've had people do things especially like this, and this is the line, and I'm looking up every now and again so you can see what my face looks like whilst I say the dialogue. And no, don't do that. I mean, again, with TV and film, depending on how quick you receive the material, then they're not always expecting you to be off book. Like, it can be a safety thing to have the script in your hand during your audition, but they certainly don't expect you to be looking at it every few seconds. So, you know, you need to be good at line reading. So yeah, you could have the script, but I'd have it out shot if you need to look at it.
Around the camera is good, doesn't it?
But yeah, around the camera. But again, these are things you can practice. Like, don't make it look like you're reading. You know, video yourself, watch it back, But it's better to learn it if you've got the time. See, but sometimes you don't get the time. So can you do what you can, you know, and as long as you do your best, that's the main thing. And that's the thing about looking at yourself perform, you know, make sure you're happy with what you're going to send.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't send it if you're not happy.
Yeah.
Because if you're not happy with it, it's not, you know, it's just not going to work, is it? That's brilliant, Ed. Thank you. Thank you for that and all the preparation and the thinking around it. That's really, I've learned loads, just, you know, really focusing on it. So it's really useful for me to think about how we actually, the instructions and the things that we put out, and just to reassure people, because it is a rather daunting, terrifying thing to actually have to do. And once you're used to it, then you become total pros. Are there any other tips or things that other people want to offer? Go on, Molly.
No, it's only two. Just a really quick one. Just when you are self-taping, I always find it's good not to make your eye line too far away from the actual lens of the camera. Because if your head's like all the way over here, then you lose everything that's going on.
Yeah.
So I think just make sure you kind of try it, like give it a little test, watch it back, and then do it. But don't be too close that you end up looking into the lens by accident, but not too far away.
Yeah, because we want access to you and your expression. Yeah, that's a really great tip. Are there any other tips? Go on, Christina.
One thing, I did mention it before, but kind of actually compressing the recording. And there's various different compressors that you can just apps that you can just download. But I think that's really important because then when that's being sort of transferred over, it kind of goes through. But if you don't have it compressed to a small enough size, then it can't actually be transferred over unless you use like WeTransfer or Vimeo or something like that.
Ed, do you use WeTransfer, don't you?
Yeah, to send stuff.
A lot of the like platforms like Mandy's, Spotlight, you know, you have to get it within, is it 20 megabytes or something? Ed, you would probably know what I'm talking about.
What do you mean, the file size? The
actual file size, yeah. Like I said, I'm rubbish with all this technology.
You're all over it, Christina. You know it. You're brilliant. You're talking about compressing and editing. You're all over it. It's brilliant.
I am trying. I do try with it, but it's like I edit it and then I compress it and then I can send it to my laptop and then I can do stuff with it, you know. But I think I've always been told that that's quite an important element. If the file's too big, then it can't be viewed the other end or something. So
yeah, absolutely. And it can take an age to download as well. I mean, particularly if it's a regional theatre that doesn't have a great internet. It can take forever. Like, yeah, I have to admit, you know, when we did our first round of, we've got better internet since, but when we did the first round of, and everybody actually is working from home. So often people, administrators who are arranging all the self-tapes for me to watch, so Holly's in her flat in Hackney on a domestic internet. So it is best if, and then let it alone if it's an organisation that doesn't have particularly great internet, which is probably most regional theatre, is do send a small, particularly for us, do send, you know, if it's a big film studio or commercial agency. But actually lots of people working from home as well, so they are on,
every casting director is in the same boat, I'd say.
Yeah, it's on the domestic. Yeah, so it is good to send a smaller one, and obviously you have to be careful how small, because but generally it doesn't get rid of the quality of the image. Yeah, hi Glenn.
Yeah, I was just going to say, my agent uses Tagmin, which is probably an argument for another time. Yeah, but I was just going to ask. I thought WeTransfer compressed it automatically. Because that's what it was for, to send big files.
It creates a zip, doesn't it? It does compress it, but then it does, but not an enormous amount, just enough. And then, but when you open it, it goes back to the original size, doesn't it?
Yeah. I say, if anyone's got an agent, they use Tagmin. That's supposed to compress it anyway into a file that the casting director can open and see.
Yeah.
On the actual compressing app, I don't know. Can anyone see that little? Is that the right one?
Yeah.
The Facebook, that one there. you can choose how far down it goes. So you've got a little bit of control over it, so you don't lose the quality.
That's great.
It's quite a good one. It's a free app. You just have to get rid of all the rubbish that comes up, but it's a free app. You can just download it on your iPhone. It's really easy to use.
Brilliant. Well done. Is there any other tips or any questions? I'm happy to answer stuff about obviously theatre auditions.
Just remembered another don't, which we were talking about previously, Doug, which was don't upload it onto your audition onto like YouTube or Vimeo or anywhere like that. Even though you can keep those files private and they can't be searched, it's someone else's copywritten content that you are putting out there in the ether. So it's really important that it gets sent to either your agent or directly to the casting person you're working with.
Go on, Harry.
Yeah, the person I talked about that sent the tape where he literally did everything you said not to do. He also did that. He put it on YouTube. And I said to him, like, if this was like a confidential email or you're auditioning for something that's really top secret, if you did that, you'd get in a lot of trouble legally.
Yeah. If you're in the new Star Wars movie, you wouldn't want to be doing that.
Especially with BBC as well.
Yeah, definitely.
BBC are very hot on that, we were doing practice ones, and our agent come back and said, don't put anything, you just heard, don't put anything BBC on there, because they will surely blur off you.
Great. Are there any, Sally?
Sorry, can I just ask Christina, can you, I'm looking at, on my apps, can you just tell me what it's called, the app you have for your compressing?
It's literally just called Compressor.
Okay, that's.
And it's like a little grey. Can you? I don't know. Try and show
I can't, because when you hold that up, it's just a glare of light, so I can't see it. So I'll just look up Compressor.
Let me just go into the apps again.
I might be able to have a look online. Compressor.
Does it say video compressor shrink videos? Because there are about 4 million on here.
Yeah. Hold on a sec. Let me just. Here we go. App Store. Right. Search.
Yes, quite a lot on there. There are quite a few available.
So this one comes up. Yeah, compressed videos.
There are quite a few on the.
I'm just trying to find the one that I use.
Not to worry. I'll spend tonight looking through them. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't. That's literally. That was the one that I was recommended to use, and I think it's just called Video Compress. I think that's what it's called. And then there's iMovie as well, which is good for editing.
Yeah, iMovie's not bad.
Explained a different, probably easier way.
And is that can you use that on an Android as well as a Mac? Because iMovie is a Mac app, isn't it?
I have no idea. I've just got an iPhone, so
yeah. I mean, if you've got an iPhone, iMovie would be the best. It's it's very good.
Yeah, I don't really know.
I'm just doing that now. iMovie.
Oh, are you? Great. Okay.
In theory.
Great. Brilliant. Is there anything else? Great. That's been really useful. Thank you. What things that we all take away from it? I mean, there's just loads. For me, it's just being really clear about instructions for people, because I just know how difficult it is. And particularly around 2 takes, I'll say just the clarification of what you should do, so that there's no fretting about what you have to do. And what are there anything? What do people take away? Go, Molly.
Oh God, no, Christina, go.
So for me, Doug, what you said about the difference between doing a self-tape for a theatre audition and a television audition. So I've made notes on that about, kind of the difference there. And obviously the reading in and the Skyping and the the commercial full length hand sort of ident, I've heard it called.
That's right, yeah.
Before as well. So I don't know if that's
that is, and just to say, I do find that useful for theatre as well.
yeah.
Because I do want to see what what you look like, because it can be surprising then you meet somebody. We know this from Zoom. It's like I have met a couple of people go, oh god, you look really, really different. You're not how I imagined you. Not that should be anything, but if there's something really specific in the description of a character that could be really, that somebody else says, that could be quite tricky. Yeah. Anything else, Christina?
Well, I've got a whole list of bits and pieces here.
Oh, well, that's good.
But yes, I mean, I have heard about kind of like labeling before, but the way that Ed has explained and the way round, I haven't been doing it quite so specifically. 2 takes, I've never done 2 takes before, so that's another interesting one that I can incorporate. And using the back of the camera, like the back of the phone for the camera. I need to get my head around that a bit, but yeah. So yeah, lots of useful tips there. Thank you.
Great. Anything else other people have taken away?
No, it's fine.
Go on, Molly.
About the 2 takes as well. I always not necessarily worry about sending 2, but sometimes I don't know if it's a little bit too much. Like I feel like I have to ask permission, but I feel like if I feel like it's necessary, then I will. So is that all right?
Yeah, definitely. I think if use your
okay, what I've done is I've
who's in the background
now.
Oh, sorry, my mum's working.
I just yeah, sorry, she's really loud. I think the 2 takes, just trust, I mean, unless we ask for it, trust yourself on it. And I think if you go, I really understand what this is, but I think maybe if there's, I don't know, maybe I'd see what you think about it, but if there's any ambiguity, if you don't quite know and you think it could be done in 2 different ways and you're slightly unsure which interpretation, I suppose if you're not clear on the interpretation, then it might be worth going for 2.
I also think it depends on the length of what your
definitely.
So if you've got, because again, you have to bear in mind the amount of takes they're going to be watching. So if they send you 4 pages, for TV and film, that's 4 minutes, right? So if it's a 4-minute scene, they're not going to watch you for 8 minutes. They're not going to do 2 takes. So that's kind of like, do send your best take of your interpretation and be happy with it. But if it's like not even more than a page, then send in a couple, to give them another option, show them a different side of you.
Yeah, I think that's good. And I think for theatre, certainly, if it is the same, if it's a page, do 2 takes. If it is 4 or 5 pages, do the one, just do 1. Yeah, I think that's just do 1. I think that's absolutely right, because you won't. We're so tired of screens and stuff, aren't we? So it will be tricky, and you do get 200 to look at, and so you want to get through them quite quickly. Anything? The labeling I think is really important. Just about also just follow. Do it like that if it's not specified, because they might specify. They might want your name first.
Yeah, always do what they say.
Yeah, do what they say.
Always read everything.
Yeah, but don't send movie 1123 VF, because that doesn't mean it, because you just can't find it. I'll get a big zip or something, and I have had a zip drive sent to me, and then I've got the spreadsheet, and then I've got to find the file. I mean, the administrator probably, Holly did retype them actually, but that that won't always happen, that somebody will spend that much time organizing all the files. Harry, you had your hand up.
Yes, pretty much is building up from what Christina and Molly were saying, like also for me as well, the clarity on what's more preferable kind of background that they'd look for is good, because obviously I didn't have many access to different types of walls, just limitations of a location, and so knowing that is quite good. Plus also on the various other things talked about, like with audition tapes for theatre and as well as for film. What's looked for, and yeah, so made several notes. Yeah, made several notes as well on everything. But
Great.
yeah,
I think just on that background as well, I did read somewhere, no, in a video somewhere of it's off-white. If you haven't, if you have got an off-white wall, because actually we do have off-white a lot in this era that we're in. Off-white is good as well. It's just white seems to be the problem.
Yeah,
that seems to be the real difficulty. So I've got. Is there anything else that people took away?
my takeaway was the
Yeah.
multiple eye lines for different characters.
That's brilliant. Yeah, really, really
Molly.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah, Sally.
My takeaway was Molly's brilliant help with editing. And actually everything else everybody else has said has been amazing. I feel that now this is not so mysterious to me. I've got about 7 self-tape advert things on Mandy which have come up over the last week, and I've saved them for today.
Oh,
and
well
now
done.
Tomorrow I will be just celebrating by doing many tapes against a slightly off-white wall.
So I've just, that's really good, great, and I'm glad it's been useful. I've just put those Spotlight videos that I watched. Now Spotlight seems to have a whole ton of videos about how to do tapes, and it doesn't look like you have to, because they're on YouTube, you don't have to be a member of Spotlight. And they're all sequenced, and they say, going on to this one, this is how to edit, this is how to, but I think they are quite targeted at making quite high end. They're the ones that start with going, buy an DSLR camera for starting at £300. So just take everything that they say with a pinch of salt, but there's some useful stuff in there. If you've got something really specific later on, they might have it in those Spotlight videos. Brilliant. Great, lovely to see you all as well. And we'll see you soon. So we've got some live events happening in the foyer. And, you know, everyone's going to be very different about how they feel about going to the theatre, particularly around, you know, this interim period. But if you are, and we opened the theatre in August last year for a couple of months. And, you know, we've been open for like 3 months, I think, in the whole of the last 12 months. And so we're experts at, you know, looking after people safely. And we're getting a fogger as well. How exciting is that? There's a handful of really good shows coming up by Outer Limiter artists, and they're in the email. I put one in about Essex Girl, Maria Ferguson, who's a really great performer. That will be on the other stage actually really early on the 18th. We would have opened on the 17th of May. So if you're around, it'd be lovely to see people. And we will have an in-person event, you know, when social distancing has been fully relaxed, and we don't know how long that will be, because it will be a real shame to have to be 2 meters away from each other with masks on, because of the whole idea of meeting people means that, you know, we want to.
I just say I watched the Romeo and Juliet. It's quite funny.
Yeah.
Was that in the theatre? Was that really in?
That was in the theatre. That was in the theatre. Yeah. It was on stage. Yeah, it was on stage.
That was so much fun.
It
really
was
enjoyed it.
funny.
But that's a whole other thing about making, which we probably should do, because a couple of people have asked about making stuff for live stream. I really enjoyed making it about making something for one camera. And for Zoom, you know, because of all its funny little foibles and stuff.
And so I was going to ask, would you do something similar that you did with Misfits, where for people that can come down, they can see it in the auditorium, or those that are unable to travel, they'll be able to pay for a ticket and watch it via a link?
That's a big discussion, really, and I think, you know, we will definitely keep digital. We might not for everything, but we certainly know that digital has really allowed lots of people who wouldn't necessarily be able to come into the theatre, not just because they're shielding or because of the pandemic, but are isolated or in different places or can't travel into the theatre, or are, or have who are experiencing dementia, or, because actually there are lots of parts of the community that there was a lot of anxiety about coming into the theatre, and what digital has done has really actually allowed people to really enjoy theatre in a way that probably they thought they wouldn't be able to do for a long time. So we're definitely going to keep some aspects of that.
Yeah,
for the future.
because watching Misfits was like a really fun experience as well. Like obviously that little fix on theatre been absent for a lot of months.
Yeah, definitely.
Just seeing that new theatre was like fantastic, as well as obviously like seeing like all the actors and the team managed to sort of move around the restrictions and really create something really interesting and fun and unique.
Yeah, it's been a real learning curve for for all of us, hasn't it? All of this, self-taping, making performance for Zoom, engaging with live performance through different platforms. It's been a massive learning curve, and I've really enjoyed the learning from it. And and we're all, obviously everyone's discussing about how we will take that forward as, fingers crossed, we start to reopen our theatres.
Yeah. Also, I'd say, sorry, I was going to say the one positive that's come from face masks has really helped in developing like the skills of ventriloquism.
It's very good. It's very, very good. Brilliant. Lovely to see you all. We will have a session on finances for freelancers, which we have an accountant on the board who will help you answer loads and loads of questions on how you deal with your finances and look after them, and tax returns and all of that. So that will be coming soon, because we're just about to finish the financial year, aren't we? He's very busy, but that will be coming up soon. Brilliant, great. Thanks very much. Have a lovely evening. It's still light.
Thanks, everyone.
Oh, how amazing is that?
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Steph.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Nice.
Thank you.
See you
Have a
later.
lovely weekend.